Hello everybody, and I'm so happy to be with you. You know, the path of meditation and spirituality we often feel is really about the inner world and learning about myself, which it is. But the more I learn about my inner world and transform my inner world, it influences everything outside in the outer world. Probably more than anything, it will influence my relationships. And in a way, the more I learn and transform myself, it's probably the most powerful way of creating healthy relationships. And my experience is that when you talk to people wherever they live in the world, no matter what culture or country, if you ask them what is the most important thing in their lives, they will all say relationships. And I often find that no matter how challenging life is, because it's a very challenging world in which we live, that if the family and relationships are okay, I can manage. You know, sometimes I say to people, you know, what's given you the most happiness in life? And the majority of people will say, family, relationships. The next question, what's given you the most sorrow, unhappiness in life? And usually it's the same answer, relationships. And you know, my observation in the world at the moment is that relationships are becoming harder and harder. Because if you look at our world at the moment, for the first time in human history, we are watching the breakdown of the family. The family is like that little social support unit that nurtures my heart. It nurtures my heart with love, with belonging, with care, with a sense of identity. But when I really don't have that, it affects all parts of my life. And so in many countries of the world, less than 50% of us live in a traditional family with mum and dad and the children. But not only is there a family breakdown at the moment, there's also a huge amount of mental health issues. And there's many, many psychological reasons for that. But I would say from a spiritual perspective that the main reason for mental health issues, which have a huge effect on relationships, is a lack of love in my life, in my childhood, or even a lack of love in a past life. And when there's a lack of true love in life, it begins to distort my thinking. My perception of reality, my perception of others is really distorted in a way. And so it affects my relationships deeply. We are also watching a lot of loneliness. It's extraordinary that we live in these huge, huge cities with millions and millions of people, but sometimes with all these people around, many of us feel very, very alone. And in a lot of countries now, a lot of people choose to live alone. Even though they feel lonely, they find it easier than trying to share with people and all the conflict associated with that. So we're watching an extraordinary world where it seems that relationships are more and more challenging. Even in the workplace. I have one of my friends who works for some of the Fortune 500 companies, the biggest companies in the world, as a management consultant. And he has told me on a few occasions that the biggest cost to industry is conflict. When there's differences, it can be a massive cost. And so we're living in such a world. More than anything, we need these loving, sustaining relationships, but it seems harder. And in my observation of myself, I think of all the things I value in my life, the thing that I value more than anything is the experience of love. Because when I feel love, when I feel a genuine quality of love in my heart, I notice I feel very relaxed about myself, very easy, quite content. And my attitude towards others is definitely a lot softer and generous and compassionate. To me, probably the most powerful thing in life is a loving heart. That a loving heart can break down barriers, a loving heart can fill empty hearts, a loving heart can heal hearts in pain. And a loving heart can go to places in others that nothing else or no other thing can touch and shift something in them. And yet, on the other hand, that when the heart lacks love, the mind can never rest. Have you noticed sometimes the mind is like agitated, just running, rushing here and there? Something is missing. It's looking, searching, seeking. Something is missing. To me, the first need in life is love. The first desire in life is love. And if that desire isn't fulfilled with a quality of love that nurtures the core of my being, a million other desires emerge. I feel when there's a lack of true love in life, that's when we desire power, desire control, desire respect, desire material things. So many desires come up to compensate the lack of the first need, which is the true experience of love in life. And all of us who are watching this know, because we're all actually experts, we've had a lifetime of relationships. We all know the signs of healthy relationships. It's to give love, to give respect, to listen well, to forgive, to be open, to be honest. There's probably hundreds of qualities that contribute to healthy, sustainable relationships. But equally, we also know what are the signs of unhealthy relationships. To be manipulative, to be controlling, to be dishonest, to not forgive other people. So many things we know, to be angry, etc., etc. So many things that contribute to unhealthy relationships. We know them. But I think because this is a spiritual program, what I'm really interested in is what is it in me that contributes to unhealthy relationships. Because a spiritual person is not really there to watch what others are doing, but at the heart of spirituality is to learn about me and transform me. So what is it in me that contributes to unhealthy relationships? I would say when I always feel you are the problem, or I find myself blaming others for everything going wrong in my life, or I have very high expectations and no one can live up to my expectations, and then I'm permanently disappointed. And yet I feel, it's others, but in fact it's me, my unrealistic expectations. Or maybe I hold a grudge, or I can't forgive. No matter what people have done, I just can't let it go. I can't forgive. Or perhaps I'm a very dominating, controlling, forceful person. If any of these behaviors are really in me, then it's a sign, I think, that I need a new wisdom around relationships. I need a new understanding within myself about how to create healthy relationships in life. And, one of the first things that became really apparent to me when I began my spiritual journey, I began to meditate on a daily basis, was when someone said a very simple thing to me, which really influenced me. And that was, they just asked me, what do you have control over? Easy question, right? Do you have control over politics? Of course not. The economy? Of course not. Your boss, your partner, your children? No. You know, when you go through, what do I have control over? It's really interesting to ask myself that question, because ultimately, where is my sphere of influence? It's my thoughts, my attitudes, my words, my behavior, my actions. That's my sphere of influence, because it probably emerges the most important step to take. If I'm genuine, if I'm really genuine, that I want to create healthier relationships, is that really to take responsibility, that I cannot change others. I'm going to repeat that. I cannot change others. I can only change my reaction to others. Because I think we know that, and we will say that, and yet we still spend my life trying to change other people to suit me. So I want you to behave in the way that I like. Really, this is our human nature. We've been like this for such a long time. And when people don't behave in the way that really I like, then I try to change them. But I think this first realization has to be so deep and so profound. I cannot change others. Not my husband, my wife, my children, my parents. But I can change my reaction. And when I realize all my power lies but within me and how I respond to you, then I start to take a completely different approach to relationships. I start to see what I can change, I can do within me to heal these relationships. And this is where I think spirituality is like a whole new wisdom. Because we talk about 3 types of wisdom in this world. My intellectual ability, which is my IQ, which is really the wisdom to understand the world around me. And this is the wisdom which helps me pass exams, get a job, make money, provide for myself and my family. But when I feel anxious, when I feel depressed, when I'm afraid, when I'm in conflict, does that wisdom help? I don't think so. It's a necessary wisdom for life, but when it comes to dealing with others, I'm not sure it helps that much. The next one we hear a lot about, or we have heard for 30, 40 years, emotional intelligence, or EQ. The wisdom to build rich, loving, sustainable relationships with others. How important is that in life? And some people have this innate ability to tune into other people, see what they need and know how to respond. And probably the best at that are mothers. Mothers are probably number 1 at really tuning into people, knowing how to respond. And why often, but not always, mothers are, perhaps the leaders in creating healthy relationships. But even then, if I have emotional intelligence to understand others, if there's a deep conflict, does it help? Maybe. The third intelligence is spiritual intelligence. If emotional intelligence is the wisdom to build a rich, loving relationship with others, spiritual intelligence is the wisdom to build a rich, loving relationship with me. The first relationship in life is with me. If this relationship is unhealthy, it will influence every part of my life. It will influence my physical health. There's a lot of data on that. It will influence my mental health, how I feel. It will influence my relationships. It will influence my performance at work. And this is why really we begin to look at this spiritual intelligence, which is really the first relationship in life, the relationship with me. And you know my feeling that when we are looking at creating healthy relationships from a spiritual perspective, there's two major steps to take before I even think of interacting with others. The first is to ask my heart honestly, to really ask my heart, do I have a healthy relationship with me? How do I treat myself? Am I loving? Am I respectful? Am I kind? When I make a mistake, do I forgive myself? Do I let go? Or do I sometimes talk harshly to myself? In my mind, what do I say to myself? What is my self-talk? Do I put myself down and say, you're stupid, you're no good, people don't want you? Because if I do that, and I'm afraid many of us do, then that unhealthy relationship I have with me will spill over into my relationships with others. I would say that if I really want a healthy relationship with my family and others, first and foremost, I have to build it with me. And look at our world. Look at our world at the moment. I think it's no secret that the world seems to be unraveling on all levels. There seems to be increasing chaos and conflict and opinions and disapproval and dislike and even hatred, unfortunately. Where does it all begin? To me, when 7.9 billion human beings have a fairly unhealthy relationship with self, it will spill out into our families, into society, into the country and into the world we live. Look at our world. It seems to be increasingly dysfunctional. Why? Because this first relationship with me is so unhealthy. And this is why, from a spiritual perspective, we look at the self and feel that the first step to creating healthy relationships is to create a healthy relationship with me. And maybe ask the question, who am I? Who am I? And that should be really the first question to ask my heart. And when I ask that question, I look inside, and to me, I see three personalities inside of me. And I think they exist in all of us. I would say two of them contribute to unhealthy relationships with others. And one of them starts to rebuild healthy, loving, sustainable, rich relationships with others. So let's look at these three personalities and how they influence my relationships. The first personality takes this whole sense of identity from my body. And I see myself as a whole set of labels. Who am I? I see myself according to my gender, my age, my nationality, my religion, my family. Hundreds and hundreds of labels define me. And yet what's common to all those labels? What's common? They are all temporary. They are all temporary. I call this personality the eye of arrogance, or the eye of superiority. And when this eye of arrogance or superiority, which we can call my ego, is ruling in my inner system, I have a whole thinking, feeling, behavioral structure. I compare with others and I think, I am better. I know more. I am right. The way I see life is right. The way I interpret life is right. And when it comes into my feelings, I feel so easily insulted, disrespected, not valued, excluded, sensitive, highly sensitive. The facial expression, one word, can just pierce my heart and hurt me deeply. Is that normal? Is that how we really are? Are we that delicate? that fragile, that sensitive, and then what do? I blame you for making me feel. But actually, I'm being deceived by my ego. A spiritual person will realize that whenever I feel this hurt, this insult, all these feelings, I'm actually being deceived by my ego. And I would say more than anything, ego is highly destructive in my relationships with others. What is the role of ego? You know, ego makes me feel separate. Ego keeps whispering in my ear, you know, you don't belong. They don't want you. You're different. And this sense of alienation, the sense of disconnection, the sense of separation increases in my head. And I start to blame the world that they don't accept me and love me. But actually it's my own ego deceiving me. There's a very, very deep relationship between ego and love. And fundamentally, it's the more ego I have, the less lovable I am. It's that simple. When you see a little child, only just this morning someone was saying to me that she's looking after her grandchildren and how innocent and lovable little children are. Why? Because they have less ego. I wouldn't say no ego, excuse me, but they have less ego. And it's almost the law that, you know, the more ego, the less lovable. The more humble, the more lovable I am. So I would say the role of ego is extremely damaging in my relationships. My ego damages. But in a sense, my ego is a front for the second I, which is what I call the eye of inferiority or the eye of lack of self-respect. And when this eye is ruling in my inner system, I also compare with others. And I take my sense of identity from all the labels of my body. And when I compare with others, I think the opposite to ego. I think others are better. Others know more. Others are right. Others don't love me. Others don't value me. Others don't respect me. Often that's goes around and around and around inside my head. I keep validating this story that I'm not respected or loved as I feel I should be. And yet, actually, I'm being deceived by my ego of inferiority, or my ego of lack of self-respect. Because when my lack of self-respect is ruling my inner world, you know, I will feel hopeless, inadequate, not good enough, unworthy, inferior, depressed. In psychology, depression is like a sadness that my dream in life to be loved and valued hasn't happened. But in spirituality, depression is like a mourning for the loss of my true identity. I'm living my life, but who am I really? So what happens when my inner world, my sense of self, is dominated by my ego and lack of self-respect? What happens? Up and down. Sometimes you're flying high, one word, one little situation, you crash. Sometimes you feel great, sometimes you feel absolutely hopeless about yourself. This huge fluctuation. And when the eye of lack of self-respect is ruling inside of me, you know, that's when, because of my own lack of self-respect, I think people are looking down at me. I feel people look down at me, they talk down at me. But it's actually my distorted vision on myself, my lack of self-respect that's deceiving me. So there's up and down. Why? Because I've forgotten who I am. The third I is the original I, the soul. The soul, the self, is the consciousness that motivates this body. The soul is a wonder. The soul is just a point, and it lives in the center of the forehead, in the front of the brain. The soul has lived before this body, and the soul will continue after this body. And the soul is completely different. My body has all the labels that are temporary, but the soul has the permanent nature. The soul is eternal, immortal, non-physical energy, the consciousness. I'm really the actor that drives the body. I'm the driver of this car, which is my body. And in a sense, that the more I begin to re-establish the relationship with my true self, this is the first major step to healing the relationship with me, which in time is going to heal the relationship with everyone else around me. This is such an important step. And in my own experience, I found the more I begin to identify that actually I'm an eternal soul acting through this temporary body, that it's the feeling it creates is like coming home to a place inside where you feel so easy, so relaxed. You take the pressure off yourself to be something, to look good, to be noticed, to project an image, which is so much a part of life today. And you begin to realize that my natural and original state is peace. My natural and original state is peace. And in fact, this first step of meditation is to know and experience who I am. And a lot of people feel that, well, what's the aim of meditation? If you ask, 90% of people say to be more peaceful. Yes, you do feel more peaceful, but that's really the result of meditation. Actually, the first step of meditation is to know and experience who I am. Actually learn the art of sort of letting go the consciousness of my body, establishing the awareness of the self, so I become soul conscious. When I'm actually aware and experiencing who I am as a soul, the automatic byproduct is you feel peaceful. In other words, when you're becoming your true self, who you really are, you will automatically release your natural state of peace. This has a massive effect on relationships. When I take back a bit of that self-mastery, that self-control, I have peace, and people get a different feeling from me. So the first step on this journey to creating healthy relationships is to create a healthy relationship with me. But the second step is really to experience true love. Sometimes I think the subtext of human life is this search to taste, to experience true love. And we do so much for this experience. We invest my heart in relationships. We give everything. You think how much you've given to your family, to your friends, to your circle. You give everything in your relationships. But in doing that, there's a huge human dilemma, I would say, that no relationship is permanent. No relationship is permanent, whether it's time, whether it's change, whether it's separation, whether it's conflict, whether it's death. The object of my love will go. It's the nature of human life. But that creates a huge effect of fear of loss, and because of that too, an insecurity. And that fear and insecurity puts a huge pressure on my relationships with others. And this is why spirituality offers the one relationship that's permanent. The relationship with God, or the relationship with the divine. And the way we see that relationship as I am a soul. I, the soul, am this point of life energy that sits in the front of the brain and the center of the forehead. God is the soul too. A point. But a soul that does not have a body. A soul that is never influenced. A soul that's unlimited in love and peace and power. But a real living soul. Not a concept or a belief or an intellectual idea. We're actually saying that just like you're watching this, and you can see that the soul is sitting here and I'm expressing through my eyes, through my face, speaking to you. The Supreme Soul is a soul too, an aware soul, but does not have a body. And this is why to communicate with this being, which is an unlimited source of love and belonging, a real relationship, it's almost like I have to let go the consciousness of my body so that I can resonate on the same frequency. Sometimes I think that's like God, the Supreme Soul, a real living soul, a conscious being, is on the FM wavelength. You know, in radio you have the FM wavelength. But when I, the soul, forget who I am and think I'm a body, I'm on the AM wavelength. So I know FM exists, but I can't tune in. So this is often like religion. We know of God and we have faith in God, but we can't really connect or tune in. If I want to connect and tune in, I've got to go up to the FM wavelength, which really means that I have to become soul conscious. And when I become soul conscious and I resonate on the same frequency, it's like I have a source of love that is unlimited, that is constant, that's absolutely pure without motives, and, if I can say, very real. I'm not just sitting there imagining something. I'm connecting with a real living being. And this is really what meditation is about. Becoming aware of who I am, my permanent self, and re-establishing a loving relationship with the lover of the soul, I could say. The Supreme Being, the Supreme Soul. Because I find personally that when I lay the platform for healthy relationships, a healthy relationship with me, a healthy relationship with God, it's like I'm full of love. I have a relationship that's filling my heart, filling my mind. It's real. I'm not so needy from you. Because when I enter human relationships and I feel so empty, I have so many desires and expectations that you should fill my emptiness. And can anyone really do that today? I don't think so. And so I come from a place of strength and a place of love and a place of respect. And I really feel these first two steps are absolutely crucial if I am genuine about improving the quality of my relationships and really creating and sustaining healthy relationships in life. And what I've learned on my journey is that, you know, one of the things that's helped me create healthier relationships is the realization, I call it the first law of spirituality, that I am responsible for how I feel. I am responsible for how I feel. People will be rude, people will be difficult, people will be this, people will be that. But ultimately I choose whether I take it on board or I don't. And what do? Often people behave badly, they're rude, we absorb it, and then I blame you for that, how I feel. But actually I've chosen to be influenced, and we might say, well, I didn't choose, because it's our addiction now. I don't even say habit, I would say our addiction is to be affected by others and then the ultimate ignorance of spirituality to blame you for how I feel. It's like I give all my power away to you. You are in control of my emotions. Why are we like this? Because we've become so empty. And when we become empty, I often feel the mind is like a vacuum cleaner. You know, a vacuum cleaner? It sucks in things. So if you give me love, I take it in. You give me respect, I take it in. You insult me, I take it in. You criticize me, I take it in. It's like I take in everything and then I blame you. Because I'm trying to fill the emptiness inside. I'm trying to fill the vacuum inside of me. And this is why I think when I have the courage and the honesty with myself to say that actually it is my mind, and I live in this world, and it's no doubt it's a very, very challenging world. And no doubt there are very, very challenging people all around me, everywhere. But ultimately, where does my power lie? My power lies in my mind and how I manage my mind. And if I keep absorbing the negativity and then projecting it back and blaming you, that is the ultimate state of ignorance spiritually. But when I take responsibility, it's like I begin to realize that each thought I create is my creation. So I begin to choose not to absorb others' negativity or others' criticism or others' behavior. And even just the realization, I start to feel less influenced by those around me. The more I take responsibility for the quality of my thoughts and feelings, actually the more I will feel better in my relationships. Because the very subtle thing begins to happen. Because probably the next main thing as part of relationships is communication. And communication is at the heart of relationship. And when we communicate with others, what is life? Every day I'm coming in front of people. Even when I'm on my phone, people get a feeling from me. But there's 3 layers of communication. One is what I say. The second is my face. And the third is the vibrations or the feelings. You know, research says, and it's different from some research to others, but basically 80% plus of the impact of any communication is non-verbal. That means your face and your vibrations. Your words account for 10 to 20% of the impact on others. When we get 2 messages, one is what we hear and one is what we feel, we always trust our feelings. So this is a huge wisdom that we need to learn from. That if I want to get on with people, I've got to have a face and vibrations that make people feel safe and comfortable. Because if I hold in the back of my mind critical thoughts, if I hold my memories of your bad behavior, you will feel it. And that's why when you come in front of some people, you feel very relaxed. You can be yourself because they're having those good thoughts for you. But some you feel really a bit on edge, like they're a bit mentally critical of you. Now, once again, we shouldn't blame you, but we do pick up all these subtle messages, this subtle communication. And this is why the more I become aware of myself, the more I have quality thoughts and feelings, people will get these good wishes and pure feelings from me. I've been associated with the Brahma Kumaris for 47 years. And one of the things I've learned more than anything is the power of good wishes and pure feelings. When I hold others' beauty in my attitude, I hold their value in my attitude, they feel supported by me, they feel loved by me, they feel respected. They will come close. If I'm not coming close to people, don't really look at them. look at what I'm holding in the subtle feelings of my mind. Because if I do hold their past, if I do hold criticisms, or I have negative feelings, it's like a barrier. It's a subtle wall built between you and the other person. It's a profoundly deep thing. And the more you meditate, it's almost like you're raising the quality of your thinking, which raises the quality of your vibrations, and people feel it. And the more you feel you have those loving feelings, those good wishes, those pure feelings, people feel safe with you. People don't feel judged. People will be open with you. And so it's like the more I do this subtle work on myself, it influences my relationships with others. There's so many things to talk about in relationships. But one thing I think that has a bigger effect than we often realize is jealousy. You know, jealousy is actually an aspect of lack of self-respect. Jealousy is an emotional experience in anticipation of losing something I value. So I may have a close relationship with somebody, and a third party comes along, another person, and they may threaten my relationship with that other person. Jealousy can have a completely distorting effect on my mind. And the process of jealousy is, you know, that first I compare with others. And if others seem better, more popular, more clever, whatever, I feel threatened. It threatens something which is important for me. And so before I know it, I begin to oppose people and mistrust people. I'm convinced they're not good. I'm convinced, but actually it's my jealousy which is deceiving me. And I think when we're honest, that because I don't really have that sense of self-respect, I feel threatened by people who, whatever, are more attractive or more clever or whatever it is, or I perceive them more attractive or more clever than me. Jealousy can have a very, very destructive effect on my relationships, and it's my jealousy. So if I have that honesty to look at myself, you know, another thing which I feel is a part of growing and building healthy relationships is to keep on giving. You know, giving is at the heart of healthy relationships. And what I mean is giving of spiritual qualities. The law of life says, if you want love, give it. If you want respect, give it. If you want cooperation, give it. The law of life, spiritually and physically, says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Some people wait. When you show me love and regard, I'll respond. Those people wait their whole lives. The people I observe in my life who are the happiest people are the people who are always giving. Giving support, giving love, giving respect, you know, listening well. And you know, when we give, we will receive the blessings of goodwill from the hearts of others. It's a law of life. And so really, even if some people don't respond initially, keep giving. I honestly feel you can change people the more you keep giving, and even if they don't give back to you. Some people are very business-like in relationships. I give you this much, you have to give me that much. I don't go on that sort of thing, you know. And the last thing I'd probably like to mention, and as I said, it's a huge subject. We could probably go on for hours and hours about these, you know, rebuilding healthy relationships, which the seeds of it are rebuilding the relationship with me and the relationship with God. But I think, you know, when I really have a relationship with God, that can inspire me to let go and forgive. And that frees me from my past. I've been a meditation teacher for, as I said, nearly 47 years. I've met people in every corner of the world, and they just can't let go of other people and what they've done. And what it means is that I hold this resentment, I hold this hurt, I hold this bitterness inside me. It has a huge effect on my life. And I think, a lot of us want to get rid of that horrible feeling of anger or burning inside, of resentment, how I've been treated, what people have been done. So each day I think about it, and it just takes the beauty out of my life. And I think when we want to get rid of it, we feel, well, I want to let go and I want to forgive, but what happened I didn't feel was right. I feel it's possible to say to people, or say openly, I don't agree with what happened. I don't agree with how you behaved or what you did, but for my peace, I'm going to let go, forgive, and move forward. So you've stated it's not your values. Maybe how people behaved, whether they're dishonest or broke your trust or whatever it is. But for me to have peace of mind, I'm going to let go and forgive. Forgiveness is letting go all the conditions in my mind that stop me being loving. Because each time I can't forgive, it's like, can't forgive you, I'll suppress my love. Can't forgive you, I'll suppress my love. Nothing makes you healthier than to really express love in life. For me, the beautiful life is to remember God, have a deep, loving relationship with God, I, the soul, and my beloved. And then, when I'm in that sweet place, it's a very contented place. My purpose in life is to give that love to everyone I come in touch with. And not get caught up in judging too much their behavior or who they are, that they're on their journey. Because today I feel a lot of people, if not the majority, if not almost everyone, life is difficult. People are struggling internally. So if I'm like everyone else, judging them and criticizing them, which is the nature of life today, they feel even worse. But if I offer mercy, I just make a decision. I can see who they are, but I choose to have merciful feelings, loving feelings. It's like a gift. It's like you give this beautiful gift. No more precious gift, rather than judgment and criticism and put down, which is the way most people are treating each other today. I offer the gift of love and compassion. That is such a precious thing. And if I live my life remembering God and loving God and then offering that mercy and compassion to people around, it's really a beautiful life. So I'm going to wind up there. It's really been such a delight to have this time with you, and I really want to thank you from the heart. Thank you so much. Om Shanti.